We're live.
Yay. Hello, hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to another episode of Teach Gen Tech. And today, if you haven't been a part of these streams yet, we are learning TypeScript with Josh Goldberg. Yay!
Yay.
And Josh, who are you? What do you do? What are the things and stuff you've been up to?
What is my name? What do I know? Do I know things? Let's find out. I'm Josh. Hello. I'm a full-time open source maintainer in the TypeScript ecosystem, which means instead of having a real job like you, I work full-time on open source tools. Most of my time is spent on TypeScript ESLint, the tooling that lets you run a lot of standard JavaScript tools and TypeScript code like ESLint and Prettier, both great tools. And then I also run like a few smaller side projects that I'm trying to get bigger in my spare time. I also just became, by the way, a Microsoft MVP, which I still don't know exactly what that entails. It's for people who share with the community, do stuff like
Okay.
this, which makes me happy.
Okay.
So, yay.
Nice. I was going to ask what it means because I wasn't sure. I just was like, this seems prestigious. Yay.
I think it is. It's nice. I like a lot of people who are MVPs. They seem great. So I'm
Nice.
happy to be here.
We should ask Microsoft, yo, what's it mean? Come hang
Yeah.
out with us. Now, I will say something that I'm excited about is you mentioned earlier about some of the projects you work on, and for those who are wondering about the difference between linting and formatting, we talked about that on our last stream. Like we spent a solid while on that, so go check it out if you are curious. I can link it eventually. I do need to still put these in a playlist for us. I've been neglecting something that you asked about right before we went on stream was how is the new job? Because
Yeah.
I got the
Belated
new
again.
job.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. I currently now work at Ivan, which is a data infrastructure company. And it's interesting because I thought like nobody specifically said this, but I thought I was going to have to quit streaming for some reason. I just thought I was going to have to quit streaming. I was like, I got a job. I got to quit streaming. And they're like, no, Jen, you got to continue to learn live. That's that's why we hired you. This is me paraphrasing, by the way, but I was like, yes, this is great. Thank you, Bakari. And hello, hello. Yes, so I will be continuing to learn live. I will still, the biggest changes is that there's going to be a lot more structure to teach Gen Tech. Other than, MISC Mondays, Python TypeScript, and working with Distribute Aid on Thursdays, the other 2 days are basically all going to be about data infrastructure and learning how to create Postgres. What is data? Like that's next week's stream. I'm actually really excited. This week we went over Kafka, which is a database type that does some things and stuff. I say it like that because I'm like, I feel like this is how people feel about TypeScript because this is how I felt about TypeScript when I first started learning about it. Confusing as hell. So hopefully it'll get better. And yeah. And there's a kitty.
I'm
Hi,
not doing
kitty.
this intentionally. If I don't do this, he will cause ruckus. Yeah, Kafka's cool. I've been meaning to look into it. Is there like a TLDR you can share of what Kafka actually is for people like me who know nothing?
There will be in the future because I don't quite understand it yet. This is something that I've realized I enjoy yet can be difficult when I'm doing the live streams. Is I do something very very difficult that I don't get at all, but it helps conceptualize long term. Just kind of makes it a little tricky if you are um, trying to start from scratch. And your cat reminded me that y'all my doggo has a UTI at the moment, so if she decides to wake up and has to go, I get to take her out really quick. So hopefully we don't have any of those interruptions.
Yeah,
But
I'll have to be making bad jokes and puns the whole time while you're gone. You don't want to have that for the stream. You'll lose all your followers.
no, I won't. That is why and actually, this is a big reason why I like learning this book with you. A, because you answer my questions, but things are punny. And we have cat purrs in the background.
An occasional growl of frustration.
Yes. And updates from last time because uh we were supposed to have one stream between last time and this time, but I started the new job, so it didn't happen. But Josh's eyes, they're so much better. They're not red.
Yes. No more giant bloodshot. I look like I've been in outer space or something. Death looks. It's great. I can
I
see
think
without
it,
glasses. I don't need to constantly squirt single-use preservative-free eye lubricant in there, which is surprisingly refreshing. It's good stuff.
how long did it take for the redness to go away?
Like, slowly over 2, 3, 4 weeks. Really,
Okay.
by a month, it was like almost completely gone.
Interesting. I just happen to have contacts in today, so but normally I have to have my glasses on. But I don't want to give up my glasses. I like my
Oh.
glasses too much.
I liked my glasses within the spectrum of having glasses, but within the spectrum of not having glasses, this is pretty great. I like
I
waking up
bet.
and being able to see fully. It's pretty great.
Fair enough. That is fair. That is fair. Well, on to the TypeScripty things. The TypeScripty of things and things. Really quick, y'all, just so that way I can bring this up and I want to go here. Okay, let's move this to the screen. Yay! So this link will be in our chat here shortly. This is where you can learn more about learning TypeScript. And you can buy the book. Get this book. You have multiple choices on where to get the book. I also say this because, like, as somebody that's scared of really big concepts, I can't say I'm scared, but like they make me grumpy, and especially when I'm like, gotta learn it, and then they'll be really dry and boring. Josh is funny and puts all of that fun humor and everything into his books and into the assignments in the projects. But something that is starters new, or has starters always been there?
They've always been there. I just haven't changed them since the book came out, since no one's asked for any new ones. So I don't know how useful they are to the majority, but I like them.
I feel like for some reason today's the first day I noticed them, which maybe I was just super concentrated on the projects. But this is, you can also scroll down to get to the projects, but this is where you can get the book. I have the book, the book, yay, and the PDF. So I will be using the PDF to share with everyone today. So that way you can tag along and, you know. All right. So we learned this really cool trick last time. Whoa, the tilde. So did I, until I was like watching last week's just to make sure I went to the right chapter. And I was like, oh yeah, that was a really cool trick. Although I can't use my mouse anywhere else. That's the only annoying part. But nothing is constant. Values may change over time. Well, except constants. Yeah. And today we are literally talking about unions. What up, Papa Smurf? The tilde, is that what we decided it was called? The thing next to the one.
Shoot, now I'm trying to find it. Yeah, that's the tilde.
I think it's the tilde.
My weird Windows mapped keyboard. God dang it.
I did this last time too. I don't know where it is, but I think it's this thing. It's that thing. And we're on Mac just with its PDF viewer, and it does this, and it's really happy. It makes streaming a lot easier. But something that I do want to get into, which I don't know if it's possible, using an iPad to do this, so that way I can write notes on the side of it and just stream my iPad, but then have notes that I write in the book next to it. I don't know if it's possible. When I get an iPad, we'll find out. We will find out. Hopefully by one. You've never owned it. What? How about a tablet?
I have an e-reader, a Nook Glowlight 4e.
Okay, that kind of counts, right? I'm gonna go with yes. Yeah. I'm gonna go with yes. Okay. All right. So We debated a few before how we were going to go through this chapter, but beforehand, I think it's going to be smart of so what are unions and literals and like what made you make this chapter? And could you tell us a bit about it, please?
Sure. If by debated you mean angrily screamed at each other for 47 minutes, it was a horrifying experience. You were really mean. Really
Don't
personal.
tell anybody. You're not supposed to.
Sorry.
Mm.
So this isn't the concepts, the foundations part of the book, which means it's not something that's like a specific thing you might use in some specific scenario. It's a core foundational. You end up seeing this in a lot of places. Unions are the concept of something that could be one of multiple possible types. Like a variable might be a string or undefined, or an object could be like this shape of the object or that shape or that shape or dot, dot, dot. And that's really powerful because in JavaScript, you can do wild and wacky things. You can create a variable and then 3,000 lines later, then assign some value to it. What was its type before it was assigned? And then you have all sorts of fun. Ooh.
I tried to make it for you, but it made it on me because you were talking. No, it doesn't work. Sorry. We're just going to remove this so you can talk and explain the chapter things. Me and StreamYard, we don't always
figure out if I can do it. Cool. Yeah, so that's really good and useful, the ability to have stuff that's like one of possible types. And then TypeScript also gives you the option to narrow types. Like if you have an if statement, if some variable is defined, inside that if statement, you know the variable is not undefined. Otherwise, you wouldn't be inside that if statement. Mm-hmm. So you have the ability to both widen the types and then also narrow them, which brings up a whole other list of cool things you can do, like things that are a specific number, like a literal 0 instead of any old number in the universe.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that. Okay. Well,
this chapter goes over it. Yay.
I mean, it does. I feel like this is something that I would say to everyone learning is the best writers and teachers in the world. Things may not click the first time you see them, read them, learn them, go through exercises with them. No matter how many times people tell you about it, it might take a while to click. So I just want to remind everyone of that. And I think I honestly, I am going to skip a little bit because it's so stuck in my head. And yes, y'all, I'm scrolling, trying to get to this end really quick. Summary. Yay.
Summary.
So the reason we're going to the summary is when I was going through this chapter, I have chatter going on in my head of things other people have told me about TypeScript, which is not accurate or is accurate. I don't know. And it can be very hard for me to move forward with a concept if I don't deconstruct what I previously knew. So what we're going through in this chapter is union and literal types, along with how its type system can deduce more specific, narrower types from how our code is structured, how union types represent values that could be one or more types, explicitly indicating union types with type annotations, how type narrowing reduces possible types of a value, the differences between const. Damn it. I hate dyslexia sometimes because I'm like no, that doesn't make sense. Const variables with variable types and let variables with primitive types. One part I'm looking forward to hearing more about is the $1 billion mistake and how TypeScript handles strict null checking, using explicit, undefined to represent values that may not exist, implicit, undefined for unassigned variables, and using type aliases to save typing long type unions repetitively. Yes, I got through
a lot of stuff.
Yes, all of that to say. So why is TypeScript known to like put any and that you can just put like any for anything and you could just move forward doing that? Like why not do that instead of doing unions and literals?
It's a great question. And the question will probably come up in later chapters, especially the next one, chapter 4, objects. Any is, to recap, any is the keyword in TypeScript that tells TypeScript to shut up, let me do whatever I want, don't type check me. And thanks, Ryan. That is good if you just need to get something done. If like you're working with some wacky old weird code and there's no way in your understanding of the type system and TypeScript's features to describe to TypeScript what it is, or if you're just hacking some stuff together and you don't have time, or maybe it is theoretically possible in TypeScript and you just don't have the 20 bajillion hours to learn enough to get there. Like those are all valid reasons to just tell TypeScript, stop yelling at me, let me do whatever I want. So of course there are people in those legitimate, reasonable circumstances, and then people who just for whatever other reasons just sprinkle an any in there to get TypeScript to shut up and never go back to fix it. So especially when we get into these more fancy, advanced even parts of the type system, and I wouldn't within the spectrum of TypeScript, this is not the advanced stuff. This is like the core foundational good to know. Sometimes it's just easier to use an any and maybe go back to it later once you know how to do stuff. And honestly, I think that's a totally valid learning strategy. You both get the code to work, which is oftentimes the most important thing, and you get to experience the pain of not having as good IntelliSense and other development features because you're using an any instead of proper types.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because like going through this, when I first started reading this of like union types, and then going through and then also looking at narrowing, one thing that like came out to me was, if you could go into a bit more detail, we have, and I'll just, I keep forgetting that I can do the zoomy zoom. Oh,
yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. I was like staring at it and I'm like, whose cat? Oh, you mean Josh's cat. Got it. Unions, expanding a values allowed type to 2 or more possible types, and narrowing is reducing it. So that totally makes sense to me. What doesn't quite make sense, if you could go into more detail of helping me put like 2 and 2 together, of if in this example, going back to the tilde. Oh, whoa, like zoomed in more.
Zoomies of the zoomies.
Whoa.
Is it automatically doing that?
Yes.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Oh,
Wow,
this
wow,
is
wow.
like, this is interesting. Okay. Well, we'll take this variable. And you go into it that it is a string, but if we're telling let mathematician be math.random, then I guess I'm a little lost on the difference between union types and strings, and why you wouldn't just name it a string. Like it's a, you explain it, but it doesn't click.
Sure. What you're describing is, in fact, the thing you expressed interest in, the billion-dollar mistake. Because, and you should feel good about yourself. The questioning you're giving now is the same questioning the industry has been doing for decades, because a lot of languages don't make a difference. It is either undefined or string. Let's just call it string. And that's actually how a lot of older languages, and even still used today languages like C++ and Java work, and C#, except they added a new set of settings to fix this. So in like traditional Java code, it's typical at the beginning of any function that takes in parameters to check if this parameter is null, throw new whatever exception. If that parameter is null, throw new exception. I don't know if your variants of Python code that you tend to use do that, but I've seen that in like some Python code bases, not many. But in code bases in languages like Java that explicitly say like this is a string, that's annoying because if you know it's only ever going to be a string and not null, why do you have to check for it? And that's why union types are valuable, because we now can explicitly say this is not string or undefined or null. This is only ever string. And those variables over there, those can be string or undefined. So you can explicitly say whether you have to check for something being undefined. And I see that doesn't click. Maybe this one extra cherry on top will click. If you take something that's allowed to be undefined and try to shove it in a place that's not allowed to be undefined, TypeScript will yell at you because it knows the thing that can be undefined might be undefined, so it won't work if you try to do things on it that only work on strings, like calling .to uppercase.
Yeah, I'm just also trying to think of like my own work that I've been doing, especially the first site that I built for Teach Gen Tech was included TypeScript, and all of the types that they were assigning were strings. So that's where I'm also like struggling because I'm like, but none of them said like something specific like this. And trying to put it into a practical manner, which we will do if we have time going into the exercises. So that part, I am looking forward to. Now, and I'm going to skip along over here because, we're not going to go step by step on every one of these. But if curiosity, do you think it makes more sense putting like the union and then defining the properties? Because I think declaring union types and union properties also got mixed up for me.
What do you mean? Sorry, by union properties?
These ones of declaring
Oh,
union types and then like the properties of it. And I was like, wait, is that just because of saying that it was the um, down here with the numbers and the strings? I think I was getting kind
hmm.
of confused there.
I think this is good learner feedback. Thank you. Good reader feedback. In retrospect, I think a better name for that chapter might be properties of unions, because it's
Oh,
talking about the properties you're allowed to access on things that are type union.
okay. Okay. That's it's weird, but that totally is clicking more on which I think is part of the narrowing and the where to go? Where to go? Now I have to think of it where it went. Would it be kind of like putting through with type aliases then? I know I'm totally skipping like 4 pages, but like it makes more sense if you're putting properties and you know the properties, the aliases I don't know, just maybe it's the way it's structured, which let me show everybody, which this is something that for those who watch, please ask the questions you have because not everybody is going to bounce around like my head does. And luckily, Josh answers questions, even though I bounce around a lot. Because with the type aliases, this made a lot of sense on like raw data could be any number of these things. And so if we do let raw data be raw data, okay, cool. Raw data equals all of these, done. And for some reason, the way I'm visualizing it is for union type or union properties is kind of like showing here, like, hey, these things could be properties and like a visual of it, I guess you could say.
I would encourage you to visualize type aliases like type raw data as like a copy and paste or a cut and paste operation, where whenever
Okay.
the code says one thing, raw data, it actually means whatever's aliased by that, like Boolean or number or string. Like
Okay.
literally, if you copy and pasted the Boolean or number or string and so on into wherever the code referenced raw data as a type, it would behave the exact same. Like you might have slightly worse error messages, but that's literally what happens, give or take, on the inside in TypeScript. Does that make sense?
What's the difference between type aliases and any?
And a type alias is a way to like copy and paste a description, like a cookie cutter template. And any is like a very foul smelling piece of matter in your cookie batter. You can copy and paste any if you want, but it's not normally something you want in your code. It's like a different way of doing things. It's like a different
Okay.
type that can be used, whereas an alias is like how you describe types. I don't like what I just said. I don't think it's a very good explanation.
Um, well, let me bring this one up and then we can go back to it. Um, so Papa Smurf asked or said, so if you have a string, you can call those string properties, but if it's undefined, it won't have those properties.
Um, I'm going to answer in the affirmative to what I'm interpreting that, and please let me know if I'm misinterpreting. If you have a variable that's a type string, say type string, then yeah, you can call any property on that variable that TypeScript knows exists on strings, like to uppercase, to string, or to lowercase. If the string is known to be type undefined, or is a type union that includes undefined, um, then you're not going to be able to call those things because TypeScript knows it might not be a string. It might be undefined, which doesn't have any of those properties on it. So this is, in the case of undefined in your type union, this is TypeScript's way of making sure you're not going to get a runtime exception, error cannot read blah of undefined, because your variable value is actually undefined instead of some string. Is that what you meant? By the way, I'll also note that this is like relatively new as a concept in mainstream programming. Like most mainstream programming languages don't do this. So as an industry, we're still kind of learning how to explain and phrase the stuff around unions and narrowing. It's not just you folks who are going like, WTF is all this.
I've been going WTF to like programming in general. And then it's been, gosh, 8 months ago, Mishko, who created Angular, was on Teach Gen Tech talking about his newer language, Quick. And he was on Anthony Campolo's stream for JavaScript Jam or Java Jam. Damn, why do I not? JavaScript Jam, yeah. And I was like, I actually understand what they're saying. A lot has changed in 8 months. All right.
All your information is worthless. No, it's that's good stuff to know.
What will happen when I call it and it's undefined?
Great question. TypeScript is just a development time tool. So it can yell at you and say, hey, this is going to be undefined and you're trying to call .to uppercase. This will crash. But it'll still compile the code to JavaScript and let you run it and let you see the crash, maybe see a crash in real time if you want to. But all we're talking about is just theoretical, like little annotations in the code and then a language, TypeScript, like it's corresponding program, the type checker, looking at your code and saying, hey, I think this is wrong. But again, this is all development time. Your code will still run even if TypeScript is yelling at you about errors.
I think that's a hard thing to realize, that even if TypeScript is going WTF, you can still run it.
Is it feasible for me to present using the playground for like a quick 2 minutes?
Yeah,
I found that to be a
it.
good, awesome.
Do
thanks.
it.
So the TypeScript playground, I'll post it in the Twitch chat.
Thank you.
One of my few not cat-related messages. TypeScriptlang.org/play. That's where I'm going. And I'm going to present, share screen, TypeScript playground. Boop. Ignore that horrible code I just showed.
Well, good news. I didn't show it to everybody yet. So there you go.
All right. You can ignore the use strict on the side. That's just some JavaScript cruft that gets made for compatibility reasons. Anyway, so let's say you have a variable. Like let's name maybe. And you say that it can be string or undefined. You have your type alias here. This is on the left TypeScript code and on the right JavaScript. That type alias is just a development time thing. The stuff that actually gets run is on the right. Just let name maybe.
So I get this now. When you and I first started, and I think it was the first stream, you showed me something like this, and I was like, what? It took me a long time to understand this. And I think one of the easiest ways that, if I could go back and tell myself now, is it's like, what is a good way of saying it? When you go to a coffee shop and you get a mocha, all you get is a mocha. That's what they hand you, is a mocha. But you don't always see the ingredients that go into it, which is, the espresso, hot water, and chocolate sauce and milk. But you can see the mocha is done. And I think that's been a really hard way for me to comprehend what TypeScript does, because it's still Java. Like, it doesn't, most of, at least that I've seen, most languages, whatever you put in to type out will run, like it's always same, where TypeScript is more like you're making coffee behind the scenes.
Yeah. You're stepping behind that barista counter and learning latte art, which I actually am doing now. Fun fact.
Oh, yay. Send pictures. Post pictures.
As soon as I can actually do it, I will.
Have you done the heart or a leaf? Those ones aren't too hard.
I've managed to do some rather inappropriate symbols, which will not be shared on this stream by me voluntarily. But eventually, I'll do the leaf, yeah, or the heart.
What milk are you using?
So far, I just use like 2%.
Okay, because for those who want to know, because I did barista for a hot minute, um, that non-dairy milks are actually harder to be able to do latte art
Mm,
than regular milk, such as even skim milk is easier than non-dairy milks to do latte art. There you
cool.
go.
Good to know.
Okay, please explain what we have on the screen.
Sure. I quickly typed it up in VS Code. So let's say we have previously declared that name maybe is allowed to be anything that's either string or undefined, which means we
Mhm,
still can't put anything that's not one of those. We can't do like name maybe equals 1337. That's not allowed because that's a number if we
mhm.
look at the TypeScript complaints. But the key thing with a union type is that it can be either of these two types, either or. So if we just do like a 50% chance it's either gen or undefined, that's allowed because it can be either a string or undefined. But the really key useful thing in TypeScript land is that it will yell at us if we try to access something that only exists on some of the union types, not all, because name maybe is possibly undefined, which means this code has a 50% chance of failing. And in fact, if I run the code, half the time it yells, and half the oh yeah, look at this alternating. It's like, okay, 50% chance it'll throw an error. So this is TypeScript telling us, hey, you might break. Does that make sense?
So, really quick, can you comment out name maybe math down and then yeah, line 5, that would make more sense. Could you comment line 5 down and uncomment line 3 and run it? Because you said like just so we can get a visual of it of like, hey, what happens when you run something and it says
Sure, I'm trying to figure out how to clear. It doesn't zoom well, this window. So maybe I should like at the end just like log
oh
name
yeah,
maybe.
thank you.
Maybe is name maybe. So TypeScript yelling, but it
Okay.
still runs and creates JavaScript code.
I think that is such a huge key to see and how that is so important. This is a great example. Thank you. I appreciate you showing us. And Papa Smurf, you were asking some of these questions. So if you're still here, is this starting to make a bit more sense? Because I am curious. Now,
There we go. We
ah,
got the TypeScript complaints. Oh my god, what is that? Jeez. We got the TypeScript complaints in the middle, the actual JavaScript output on the right, and
we can't see the actual JavaScript.
oh, you can't? Oh no, I was opening the
No.
DevTools. Oh well, I guess we can only see one of these at a time. You get the logs. I'll hover over the
But
TypeScript complaints.
Papa Smurf said PHP unions are similar and throw exceptions at runtime
Ooh.
by the sounds of it, but are relatively new. Only difference is JavaScript will still try to run.
That's awesome. I did not know PHP had a union types. Those people over there, the language folks for PHP, they're doing a good job. They've had a lot of good stuff. Because yeah, PHP is like a more traditional type system that is a runtime type system. You can reference and refer to the runtime types at runtime. Like in your code, you can say like if the type this is being called with is something, then do some other thing. Whereas in
Hmm.
TypeScript, vanishes after development time. It's just JavaScript output.
I have like a half thought question. Give me a second. Something that I struggled with when first trying to comprehend TypeScript would be so would someone use TypeScript to create something but use the JavaScript it created to actually put it into a program?
Yeah, TypeScript lets you create. TypeScript is a tool for creating good JavaScript programs. It coincidentally lets you write something that looks a lot like JavaScript, but is actually a little different. Like it's got this new type syntax. But you can think of TypeScript as like the ingredients that go into the mocha. And the
Yeah.
ingredients may or may not look like actual mocha. They might look like weird chocolate syrup powder and hopefully coffee beans, but maybe some sort of like weird pod thing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I guess I'm curious, like if somebody built a program with using, we'll say Astro using Tailwind, CSS, and TypeScript. If I deleted my TypeScript file, would it still run then? After everything is built, will it still run if I don't have my TypeScript file?
It should. If there's an output JavaScript file, some .js or .cjs or MJS or whatever extension created somewhere, yeah, you don't need the .ts file. It's like the Photoshop or Figma files after you've exported it to like an SVG or PNG or JPEG.
That's
Like,
a
those are just
great
source
way of
files.
saying it.
Yay!
Oh, yay!
Thanks.
Yay! Okay, we're moving right along. Yay! Okay, now I have to like rethink where I was at for the rest of this. So I
Do you want
will.
me to stop sharing or?
I was just about to ask you the same thing. I'm like, was there anything else you'd want to show us on this to kind of like get to know the unions and literals?
Yeah, a couple more things. One is you can see that TypeScript gives a complaint here if you try to
Hmm.
call to uppercase in something that might be undefined, because it might throw an error. It might not.
Hmm.
But narrowing is when inside a statement, TypeScript can deduce. It can narrow the type of something to be more specific. It can deduce
Hmm.
that inside this if statement, if name maybe is truthy, it can't be undefined, because then the body of the statement, line 12, would never be run. So inside this if statement, name baby is type string, which is why this code is not given any TypeScript red squigglies. Line 12 is fine. And we can see that it never throws an error when it's run. If I can get that to show. There we go. Does that make sense?
Let me read out Papa Smurfs, and then I will reanalyze. Um, and Papa Smurf, please do not apologize on all this. I'm an absolute noob, so at least when other people ask questions, I can learn along with everyone. So say you have a DTO with like 4 types, how would you narrow that?
So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to assume DTO is data transfer objects in this context, which is a fancy term for any object that's used to carry data like between two things, oftentimes
Hmm.
like two programs or processes. They're it's like a standard term in like backend stuff. So you have a DTO with 4 types. Um, we haven't seen how to represent. Oh, awesome! Yay, I got it right. We haven't seen how to represent object shapes like JavaScript objects in the type system, but once we do, you will be able to mix those with unions. So you can have a union that's like apple shape or banana shape or cherry shape or dragon fruit shape, or maybe like fruit shape or vegetable shape or carb shape or something. And then your DTO can be represented as a union of it. Like, okay, it's one of these possible shapes. And each of those shapes can be like an object shape or string or undefined or something.
And guess what next chapter is? Objects.
I wasn't going to
I've
guess. I wasn't sure if
I
you were
didn't
asking
read
me.
I didn't read ahead though, just so everybody knows. I did not read ahead. We're not going to go there yet. I am like I will get it done just in time to learn things. I will say teach Gen Tech and Weird University of Gen. I actually have learned more in the 8 months of doing this than I did the multiple years I tried to go to school. Um, so, but okay, cool. And I liked how you gave the example of narrowing as well. And this is all making a lot more sense now.
If you were a compiler, you'd be a just-in-time compiler.
This is true. Okay. Just because I liked this part of the chapter and I feel like it'd be fun to have you go over it, whether you share your screen or you want me to share the chapter, the $1 billion mistake, which is on page 36. Let's get
Cool.
there so I can actually see it, and I will share my screen so people can at least see what we're talking about. Entire screen, this one. Okay, so Tilda over here. Get over. Why? Oh, there we go. We got the $1 billion mistake. Why? Okay, is it fitting? Maybe. It's kind of weird. It doesn't want to
It's
fit
there.
both. It doesn't want to
Almost
fit
there.
both. Oh
Yeah,
well.
weird.
Uh, so it was the invention of the null reference in 1965. This has led to innumerable errors, vulnerabilities, and system crashes, which have probably caused $1 billion of pain and damage in the last 40 years. Damn.
And given that that was just doing the math spoken in roughly 2005, imagine how much worse the damage cost has been given the exponential growth of the software industry now in like almost 20 years later.
No, thank you. No, thank you. So, how does TypeScript? This one we gotta share. Papa Smurf said, I make the $1 billion mistake every time I write JavaScript. Boom. Well, hey, you're learning. How would you explain what the $1 billion mistake is as it relates to TypeScript and how it helps conceptualize it more?
Sure. First of all, thanks, Ryan, for the link share. Second, I find that I like sharing these or explaining these with a playground. So if you don't mind, I'll just
Yes,
hop right
yes,
back in.
I'm loving this. Thank you.
Cool. So this code is always going to crash. Function greets. We haven't gone over functions, but it's the same concepts as before. You can annotate that a parameter is a particular type, let's say string. And this one, oh, right. And let's say like your name dot to uppercase. So here we say that we're going to greet someone by saying hi, and then your name in uppercase. And then we pass in null to greet. Do you think this code will crash? Yes or no?
No, because isn't null like nothing?
Null is nothing, which means it will crash because you're not allowed to read properties off of it.
Oh,
Unlike in other
okay.
languages, like Ruby, which allows you to do like fun shenanigans sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is always going to run. And yet, there is no red squiggly here, which is weird because we have already been trained that if TypeScript thinks something is going to crash, it should give us a red squiggly. And this is like 5 lines of code, so it should know that this is going to crash. And the
I've
reason
had this
why
happen.
you've had this happen,
I've had this happen.
which this?
Just something didn't squiggle and it
Oh,
crashed it. And I
gotta get
think
the
it was
squiggles.
because of the TypeScript with the, but again, I say that because it was my first time learning TypeScript and I didn't put things in yeah. Anyway, please continue. Yeah.
Who knows then? So yeah, who knows? But in this specific case, this is the $1 billion mistake. The idea that you can provide something like null or undefined in JavaScript, they're like almost the same, which has annoyed me and everyone for years, to a place that does not expect it. That does not explicitly say this can be string or undefined, or it doesn't explicitly say string or null. And a lot of programming languages, that's just how things are. Like in C# prior to a few years ago, and in Java, I think still now, like that's just how it is. Which is why in a lot of code you see like at the beginning of functions, like if your name equals null, throw new error, your name is null. That's really common. And that's because a lot of older languages didn't have the concept of union types, saying that something could be either, let's say, string or null. They just were like, it's one type, and then it could also be null. So the $1 billion mistake is corrected by a particular compiler option that TypeScript has. Is it strict null checks, which says no, null and undefined are no longer assignable to all the things. This is no longer allowed. You're not allowed to provide null or undefined to something that doesn't explicitly say it can be null or undefined.
I'm gonna pause on that and read everybody else's stuff of oh, we read that one. There we go. Fukai says, cannot read properties of undefined is probably the most common error in all of JavaScript if they had to take a guess. Papa Smurf said they were going to mention duck typing in Ruby, but it can be mind-blowing.
Yeah, fun fact, TypeScript is like a halfway or like a intermediary step between duck typing and strict typing. Duck typing is do whatever you want at runtime. If it works, it works. If it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Strict typing is no, we're going to exhaustively check it before you run it. And then it has to be explicitly the thing you said it's going to be. TypeScript is structural, where you can say what stuff is supposed to be. And as long as we think it matches up, that's fine. So it's like duck typing in the development side of things.
What's an example? So Ruby is duck typing. Are there any other languages that are duck typing? I don't know if I've actually ever heard of that term.
It's a fun term. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. JavaScript is duck type, Python, Ruby, except for the fact that Python and Ruby are adding in type annotations in some native-ish form, and we have TypeScript for JavaScript. So fun fact about duck typing, everyone ends up just going to structural typing eventually, or something better than duck typing, because it's for all the reasons why TypeScript are good.
Sometimes I just gotta let this sink in for a bit. But this is making sense, like what you just said about like being able to. Can you show us what it was called again, or I should just like look in here for the null to be turned, because you had to turn that on, right? For null not to work.
Strict null checks is a compiler option. By default, if you run TypeScript with no settings, it's not on for compatibility reasons. They didn't have it originally. But if you do the like friendly create a TypeScript project for me in like any framework or TypeScript itself, like TSC -- init, which creates a new TypeScript configuration, they'll turn it on for you. So the vast majority of projects, at least the vast majority of new TypeScript projects, use strict null checks and other strict flags.
I'm adding this.
By the way, the way that I phrase this in the book is, if you've never worked in a more traditional language like C++, this is probably weird and confusing to you. Like, why wouldn't this null not allowed thing be the case? Like, the $1 billion mistake seems weird. But if you've worked in those languages, it may seem weird to you that that's even a mistake in the first place, that we have another way. Like, people get very entrenched in the mindsets. And I've seen both cases where, like, why wouldn't, like, null is just another type in TypeScript and undefined. Like, why would it be that it's like some weird special case is how people think of it. So if you're looking at this going like, why was it not like that all along? Why is null somehow special case? You're right. It shouldn't be.
I am actually going into VS Code and checking if mine is on, because I'm curious. But okay, this is totally making sense. And we talked about type aliases. And I liked how earlier you were talking about how, and I almost wonder if this is making more sense about the ducks, because type aliases are not JavaScript. Almost made me think that is not duck typing. Yeah, okay. I skipped. Papa Smurf said you answered the questions they asked. Yay. And Sakai says duck typing is like if an object has a dot quack method, then it is a duck. In a non-duck typing languages, you would have to say beforehand that the object is a duck. It's not defined enough. It's not enough to just be defined a dot quack method on something for it to be a duck, or that's how I think about it, at least. I'm actually really excited for objects, because I feel really embarrassed saying this, but I'm like, when you start to learn, you're like, I know too much. I shouldn't not know this. Yet that's learning. Like, it's going to get more confusing probably before it gets better. And in Python last week, we were talking about functions, and for some reason it couldn't click what functions were. And I'm like, what? You literally use functions as part of everything. And yeah, I feel like objects are probably the same thing, but at the moment they don't fully click. So I'm excited to be getting into objects in one of these streams, because it's going to click like functions did, and me not realizing how often I use functions.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see the learning process like live in real time over the months.
Oh my gosh. It's so frustrating though. I'm just like, I'm slowly going through my old streams to be able to create chapters, and I'm just like, oh God, Jen, young Jen, what are you asking? And I'm like, thank you for asking that, but geez, okay,
You have
there's
emotionally
progress.
resonant, empathetic conversations with yourself.
That's why I'm just like, okay, if I could like help myself back then, this is what I would say. Um, and then your combining type aliases, that one seemed pretty standard to me. It didn't seem too confusing to me at least. Is there anything, I know we skipped around, so I do want to ask, is there anything in this chapter that you're like, dude, we didn't cover and we need to cover?
I think so, but I might be wrong about the need to cover part. We didn't
Well,
cover the difference. Oh,
I was just
sorry.
gonna say your opinion on it, it means we need to cover it.
Maybe. We'll see. The great problem of teaching is that as soon as you know enough to teach, you're no longer in that beginner mindset. There's this
Oh.
very difficult challenge, right? We didn't cover the difference between primitives and literals. A primitive
Oh.
type we've already covered in the book: string, number,
Hmm.
actually null or undefined, big
Hmm.
ints that no one ever uses except for like special cases. So like string and number are like, or Boolean are really common primitives. But then you
Hmm.
can have specific instances of those primitives, like Hypatia is a string. But that philosopher variable, it's not going to be just any old string in the universe. We know it's specific. Yeah, symbol, another great commonly used. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, what are they? It's see if I wrote in the book. We'll see if I know this off the top of my head. All the primitives in JavaScript are string, Boolean, number, null undefined, big int, symbol. Is it 7? I think that's all of them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I can
Nailed it.
go there really quick because I feel like I'm getting smart about using this on here because I'm like, oh, I can know the page number. Yay, that will help. All right,
Cool.
here are the look, the 7.
Yeah, we had to do special things to get that list all in one page. It would have folded by default, which would have been confusing. Yeah, so those are primitives, but each of those can have specific instances. Like that, if you say const philosopher equals Hypatia, that variable Hypatia is not just any old string. We know it's more specifically the literal Hypatia, which means you can do some clever, fancy things. Like VS Code, because of TypeScript telling it, if you hover over a variable that's declared as const, will give you the literal type, like Mark Goldberg, instead of string, if you hover over it.
Oh, okay. I think
Cool.
I want to look at both of these. No, no.
No?
Oh,
Ah, there we
are
go.
we? I think we got it.
You got one figure caption.
Yeah. We'll just turn it off for now. So, hmm,
So this doesn't seem very useful yet, but it will probably be more useful later on. One
okay.
example of where it's useful is you could have union types where some of the things are primitives and some of the things literals. Like you could say that something is either a string or
Hmm.
the number -1 to indicate failure. Some programs do this. So if you check whether the result of something is the number -1, then you know it's like number -1. And in the else case, you know it's going to be a string.
Okay. So, and this is for everyone watching. These are some of the really fun questions that I get to ask Josh because I did not learn JavaScript first. Like I can make things happen if I Google enough. I can make it work. Do I know what things actually mean? No. Like, what is the difference between const and let?
Great question. A const variable may not be reassigned to a different
Okay.
value. If you say const first name equals hi, you're never going to
Mhm.
have a different first name.
Okay.
Um, a let variable can be reassigned to a different value. That's the only difference.
And is that TypeScript only or JavaScript in general?
JavaScript in general. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I thought so, but I'm like, hmm. Hmm. Um, okay. So if it's const, mathematician equals Mark Goldberg, then Mark Goldberg will always, like, if you want to look it up, it's going to show up as Mark, or as the mathematician equals Mark Goldberg. Even I'm trying to think of a way to say it back to you. That's not working very well. um, when would you go back and look at this? Like, I guess, if I go search for Mark Goldberg, I'm going to find a string where if I say let mathematician, where if I put const mathematician, I guess I don't really understand a way of saying this, even though I feel like I get it.
It'll be a lot more useful in the objects chapter, I feel like. When you have a
Okay.
property that can be one of specific set literals, and which literal it is changes what like the type is. Which is actually tying back to the DTO, data transfer object suggestion earlier, where like sometimes people have an object where like the type property on that object, or like variant or something, if it's this one string, if it's fruit, then it has these properties. If it's this other string, like vegetable, it has these properties. That's where it comes in handy, oftentimes. And we'll actually see that in the next chapter, how to do that. Did that just click?
Well, I think I did that with my first Astro project for the website. Is I think because I was trying to ask you to compare them with modules, and they weren't quite modules. I think they were objects.
Okay.
I don't remember, but I will go follow up about that. And that is like one of the hardest things that I could say to anyone is, even if it doesn't make sense, keep going. It will click probably eventually. And then Ryan said, and let is kept within a scope unlike var. Oh God, what does that mean?
Oh yeah, so this is some dumb stuff. Dumb is the wrong word. Some silly stuff. There are 3 ways to declare a variable in JavaScript: var, let, const. Let and const are the good ways. Var is the weird way. Var is how the language originally did it, and let and const are added later. But var had these weird rules where, I don't even know how to explain it anymore. It's been so long. Don't worry about var. The fact that I can't instantly remember how to explain it means it's like weird and convoluted. But the TLDR is, it's an old way of declaring variables that has like weird shared rules where you can have like multiple declarations all over the place and declare things out of order. And it's confusing and everyone hates it. And you should avoid it if possible.
So would be okay. And would it be like var became before let, and let like replaced var because you can reassign something with let?
Let replaced var, yeah, because there are some specific cases where var actually still is useful. Unfortunately, don't think we should go into them now. But yeah, the generally speaking, let has like become what people do instead of var.
Okay, so
Satisfy you?
yeah, cannot reassign. So a const can reassign cannot be reassigned. A let can be reassigned, and they're reassigning what's ever being declared, which is not necessarily a type.
Sorry, you lost me on that one.
Okay, so like, what is this? I get that it's a string, but like, it's
When you say this,
oh yeah, you can't. I don't like when this doesn't highlight the way I wanted to, so I could show you.
I know it's so confusing. It's like the instincts there, right?
Okay, so Mark Goldberg. If
Sure.
What is Mark Goldberg called? Would it just be a string? So if you const mathematician Mark Goldberg, you would just say Mark Goldberg cannot be reassigned, or mathematician cannot be reassigned. Mathematician is what?
I was just at a conference where there's a running gag that the theme of the conference was either pandas, because someone referenced it in an early talk, or the phrase, it depends. And in this context, another key thing from the phrase was the context here is that it is either a string or the literal Mark Goldberg, depending on like what you want to be more precise about, or like how precise you want to be. So both are valid and correct answers. In these variables, Mark Goldberg is a string. More specifically, it is the literal string Mark Goldberg.
But mathematician would be the variable?
Yes.
Or like the word mathematician is the variable. So a const declares the variable, and a const makes the variable not being able to be reassigned. A let makes the variable be able to be reassigned, and var does something to the variable we're not going to talk about.
That's an excellent description. Yes.
Yes, that is yay. And this is one of the hardest things with like learning by your like doing your own stuff is see, like it took me forever to figure out how to ask you what a variable was because I didn't know the word. Blah. Okay, I have things from Papa Smith on here that I have missed, so let's go back. Thank you for your patience. Does anyone remember use strict in JavaScript with vars? Probably showing their age.
Remember.
So you would have a var and tell it to use strict, so it'd be kind of more like a const?
No, newer developers these days don't know how weird JavaScript was. I feel like an old Seattleite or Brooklyner. JavaScript is so weird that they added the word use strict. Like you could say at the beginning of a file, use strict, and that would make JavaScript slightly less weird. There were proposals to add even more, like use stricter or like use strict too, or something to make it more and more strict, but they never went anywhere. So there's some like really wacky things in JavaScript that you could do that get disabled if you just put the string use strict at the top of your file or in like a function or block.
And that was like ES6. Oh, this is funny enough, Papa Smurf. During, I think our first chapter is when I got to learn about the versioning of these that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
That
Do you
was a
remember
fun
what ES stands for? Trivia question.
Ah, shit. I don't know. Let me see if I wrote it down. I honestly don't know if I wrote it down. I do know it's versioning, which I didn't know beforehand, but I don't know if I wrote down. No, I don't think I wrote down. Wait. No, I just wrote down ESLint compared to prettier when we were talking about it during types the at the beginning of the last stream. But no, I don't remember what ES means.
ECMAScript. Do you remember what ECMA stands for?
No, I don't know if we went through this.
I don't remember what ECMA stands for. I'm looking it up now. It's like the standards organization that runs like, oh my God, European Computer Manufacturers Association. Okay. It's the standards body that runs a lot of things, including the JavaScript standard. But because Oracle, like a jerk, owns the JavaScript trademark and won't give it up, we have to technically call the language something else, hence ECMAScript. There is shade intentionally there.
By the way, they were hiring a developer advocate for those who are applying for jobs. They hit me up. I found a job. You can go apply there. I like my job. I don't know why people do this. When you get a job, they finally like reach out to you. And it's like, bro.
Always.
No, I like my job. Please go away. Okay, so it's called EquiScript. I will look more into that. And then Sakai said what they do is always use const. And then if I find out later that I need to mutate it, I change it to a let. That is good to know because I am rebuilding my site with, it is still with Astro, but it's with like, the theme isn't as defined. I guess is a good way of saying it. Like it's not as structured, so I can customize it a lot more. So I'm finding myself doing a lot more fresh coding instead of mutating their code. So it's good to know these. Oh, I'm gonna go share what Papa Smith sent, and I just have to click it into a different tab. Doo-doo-doo. Because StreamYard doesn't do that right. Aha. Oh, this is good. Thank you. Yay. Okay. ECMA International, formerly European Computer Manufacturers Association. That is like a lot. But now we know. Now we know. Like reading Rainbow, the more you know. Okay. Okay, anything else? Really quick, let me write this down. So all these define a variable. Variable. This is why I really want to be able to do this on an iPad because people then could actually see all these random notes that I'm doing instead of me just like staring down at my.
I am curious what's going on over there. By the way, I'm told from a mutual of ours on Twitter, Elian, that I should remind you or ask you if you like a particular Astro theme. Do you know which
It's
one
the one
is?
I'm using now.
You're using Brutal, I think it is?
Yeah. It's the one that I'm saying that I don't know if more defined is the right way of saying it, or I'm just better at breaking this one.
Either way.
There really could be a I just started using it. I got the colors to work fine. I can show you guys. I'm very proud of it. It just started. But because and yes, Ryan, I probably should look at Notebooks Cam, but that's why I'm trying to think if I can get the iPad because I also want an iPad. So I'm trying to find a business reason to get an iPad. I don't know if it's going to work. Okay, so here is the layout so far. And I'm so excited about it. It's called Brutal, which let me grab the information. So this is my GitHub, and you can see that it came from Elian, which is this one. And okay, so this is something I really appreciated that he did so this is the original theme, what it originally looked like. I was like, dude, this is dope. I need this in my life. But there's more. He also put his website, and I was like, dude, that gives me even more ideas. Blah. And voila, this is where we're at now.
Very nice.
And I'm excited about it. I'm like, this is so cool. But here is where it's not knowing me fix how of it does not scale.
Oh, your little head.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, and then look at these.
Lordy.
I'm just, I don't know how to fix it. It took me long enough to get the colors to work the way I wanted to. So, yeah, it's on pause. Well, I should be working on it, but I haven't adjusted to my new sleep schedule yet. But the reason I did all of this instead of my old Teach Gen Tech site is because now that I have a real job, it's kind of weird just telling someone to go to one of these instead of just being like, yo, I'm Jen Janad. I do all of these things. You should check out one of them. So, yeah.
I've been meaning to update my site for the longest time, but I can't get rid of it. It's just so darn useful. Just does a landing page.
Oh, that's a different one though. Wait.
I just mean like as a list of links, like it's good to have, and then also yes, like it's a
Yeah.
demo, etc. Yeah.
There's one that I think it was yours that linked to something that was not your actual website. Or it was like a page within your website that was like a funny image.
The Rickroll?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, on all my
Is
conference
that on
slides,
your
I linked
Twitter?
to hi.joshokgoldberg.com. I think it's on Twitter, yeah. Because people kept
Oh,
freaking spam recruiter yelling at me.
uh,
So yeah, don't go to it unless you want to Rickroll everyone. But
I do.
hi.joshokgoldberg.com
I
is a
do.
Rickroll.
I do. And oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We need to pause.
Hi,
Jacob is
Jacob.
here. Jacob's amazing. Yay,
Well,
it's Jacob.
we were learning TypeScript. Now we're learning how to construct a Rickroll in the era of modern web standards where you can't autoplay a video with sound. So you have to put an enter button to gain user intent.
So I wanted to show that to everyone because when I first Ben Myers was like, yo, you and Josh should be friends. And you should reach out to him. And I go to look at his site to learn more about him. And this happens.
So good. Sorry.
I know, but it does make me actually remember it a lot more, and it goes to your humor. And yes, for those, so this is first time, first time chatter, but not first time guest. Jacob was my first time of someone trying to explain to me what TypeScript was, and then we got stuck on him trying to explain what headless is, which I still don't understand, but I don't even remember why it came up. Or workers.
Workers.
Um, Not headless. What were we talking about? Server. Well,
Serverless?
is headless part of serverless? Cloudflare workers? Fakai says, Josh reminds me of Richard Hendricks in Silicon Valley.
I'll take it. It's a good show.
All right.
I had a previous engineering manager / director say that I reminded, not an engineer, some head of department somewhere or something called me. It was it was maybe Patrick Bateman esque, or some Ryan Gosling playing the some psychopath or something who was handsome. Yeah, fine, close enough. This is better.
Couple things. Yay, Elian! Thank you for joining. And you should just come on our stream and could help with my site because you created the theme and I'm working on it. And thank you for the follow. And Jacob, yes, I am using StreamYard. And hello, Laura. Yes, I am. I am going to have my OBS set up.
Oh yeah, you were gonna do that, or you were interested in it and tentatively looking at it, right? At some point.
OBS and
Yeah.
Ping. Yes, I'm going to set it up for the new one for working with work to figure out what we're doing on all of that because I gotta streamline my stuff and stuff. And yay, thank you for doing all the shout outs, Ryan. And yes, I'm building a new Astro site, and I can show you what it's supposed to do and what I did before I broke it. So this is what not that. We can minimize that. That is what we were learning. Elion made, and it's pretty, and it does things. And no, it's different. It's different. I'm building a new site. I still have the old site there. It's just not public. But look, it works. It functions properly. And then the cool thing is Elion also put their site here, which gave me more ideas. I was very excited. So, and then we have my site, which is getting there. And I even have different colors. I'm so excited about it. And colors match my shows and my jobs. And I will show you in a second, Papa Smith. Thank you for the call out. But what I did not do, because if we go back to Ilian's site, look, it actually does the things it's supposed to do. and still fits. Like, it looks good. Mine, on the other hand, I broke. I don't know how, but it does that. Wee. Or I did this. But that's why I'm like, I don't know what I do. Alien and everyone, Jacob will tell you I break a lot of stuff when I'm trying to figure this stuff out. Because I'm like, oh, that didn't work. Let me go try something else.
Breaking stuff is one of the best ways to learn stuff, though. I like this.
It matters how
Ryan
frustrated
agrees.
I get.
The more frustrated you get, the more you've broken things, the more you've learned. Yay!
Yeah, and then it's like I go to my D&D crew and be like, someone please help me get unstuck. I don't know what I'm missing. But yes. I break a lot of stuff and I do learn a lot. And this is actually why, oh, you guys, I'm really excited about this one. I'll show you this one. I built another Astro site that did not break. I'm really proud of it. It's just a landing site, but I built it without asking anybody for help. Yay. It was very exciting.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at that theming. Yeah.
I don't remember which theme, but if you look at the GitHub, it will show you the theme. Yeah, they have it, but I was so excited. This one I made without breaking in 30 minutes compared to the ungodly hours I put on these sites. But yes, Astro is amazing, Papa Smurf. I will say, oh, this is something I meant to ask. Astro build. Astro.build, I think. Yeah. Could somebody, and Josh, I feel like you are a good candidate on possibly explaining this, please. How something like quick couldn't be used with Astro, and Astro can't use because quick also wouldn't be able to set up because Astro does its components.
You know what? I actually met Gillian at a conference wherein both Astro and Quick were demonstrated on stage, and I learned them and they were both really cool, but I don't think I could explain why one can't be used with the other than just they're both things. Like Quick is its own framework. It's like a way to do very small, like super incrementally loaded stuff, and Astro like manages other UI libraries. I don't think that's a good explanation, and I don't feel confident giving anything more than that. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's good. I mean, this is and Jacob just said that yes, most things can work in Astro. And to Papa Smurf's point, what is the cat's name again?
Jerry. I'm trying to get him out. He's annoying me.
Hi, Jerry. Oh, okay. Elian says they're both trying to solve the same problem, but take another approach. I think what I'm curious about is like, I like Astro because I can find themes like this and be like, cool, let me see what I can take that they made that's really pretty and also make my own thing where like with React and that kind of stuff, I'm like, that's a lot harder to find. And I don't know if that's because of Astro. But I also know that we have gone on a really far tangent from TypeScript. I don't even know how we got here.
Truly, I couldn't tell you.
Elian said, in short, I would say that Astro is for content-driven websites and Quick is for the more real web application side. That is fair. I MC View Nation and Nux Nation, and then also like learning about Quick, and then I just really like Astro. I'm like, I want to learn something that I can build with all of them to compare them all. But I don't know.
It's hard. Takes time.
Back to learning TypeScript.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would suggest we go over?
From TypeScript? No, I think we're good. Before all these nice folks talking about Astro came in, And quick, we covered union types, literals versus primitives, the $1 billion mistake, strict null checking, and type aliases. Is that all?
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, that was
I
good.
will see if I can summarize them.
See if you can explain it to the people in the chat. See if any of them don't yet know it, and see if those explanations click at all. That would be a fun challenge.
Okay. I will say I am cheating and looking at the summary because I have to think about how I would even put it into my own terms to say that I understand it. So,
Sure.
okay, unions are where you can unions be made with a const then? To go to my other question?
Yeah, if you say like const something equals then
Yeah,
some
okay.
condition question mark colon.
Okay,
Yeah, the
okay.
ternary.
Okay, so unions are where you can put two different types. So you can put that it's a Boolean and then the dashy thing, and then the other type, which could be a string.
Mm-hmm. And it's I call it a pipe
Oh,
because I like the
that would
word
make more
pipe.
sense
A
than a
little
dashy
vertical
thing.
pipe and dashy thing. There are a lot of dashy
Um,
things. Also a lot of pipes.
that's true. That's true. And then explicitly indicating union types with type annotations. This is also the hard thing I have about this is I'm like, I know we went through type annotations, and I remember going, the words just don't make sense to me, but it was in chapter 2. Uh, okay, I don't know how to explicitly indicating union types with type annotations.
Yeah. So let's say you have a variable and you don't immediately assign something to that variable.
Oh,
You
is
could
it like
say it's
saying undefined?
eventually, yeah, it starts off undefined, but maybe you eventually want to add a string or a number, maybe either. Who knows? So you could say let variable colon string or number, or like string or number or undefined or something like that to say that eventually I might add one of these possible types.
Okay, that makes sense. How type narrowing reduces the possible types of a value. So it's like taking away the pipe and leaving it as one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Difference between const variables with literal types and let variables with primitive types. And primitive types are the 7 that are indicated in chapter 2. And it is null, undefined, boolean, string, number, bigint, and symbol. And literal ones are like const, mathematician equals Mark Goldberg. And because mathematician would be literal because we're not telling it if it's a string or anything.
Yeah, because it's const, it can't be reassigned, so it's not going to be any other string in the universe. It's only ever going to be that one literal exact string.
Okay, and then the $1 billion mistake. Turning on script null checking because null will not come up with a red squiggly line telling you that it's wrong. And you could break some shit. So you want to turn it on.
Want to break that shit. Yeah.
Using explicit undefined to represent values that might not exist. I don't know if we actually went through that one.
I don't
And
think we did.
implicit.
Forgot about that one. Oh, yeah. That was a thing.
Eh.
So let's say you declare a variable, let value.
Mm-hmm.
What type is that value variable? Or like let value colon string. And then the next line you do console.log parentheses value. It's going to log undefined because there's no value in that value variable yet.
Oh, so because it was blank, where like if we use implicit undefined, we actually put undefined in the quotes, not quotes, brackets.
In the type annotation.
In the type annotation. Yeah.
Could I share the playground for this actually? This is like
Yeah.
one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
Yeah,
like that you're doing this because it is helping click more. Because
cool.
sometimes like trying to talk about it and then also trying to type it can be very nerve-wracking to also learn.
Yeah. So let's say you have a variable like let sup. Good variable name. And yeah, and then you do like console.log sup. What's in sup? It's undefined. Defined. But let's say you declare that sup is eventually going to be a string. And then you want to do like sup.to uppercase. Well, TypeScript knows this is implicitly, meaning you haven't explicitly said this, but like we know it's undefined because you haven't actually assigned a value to it. So in reality, sup, the variable, is kind of like the union type string or undefined. Until you assign something, it's either a string or undefined, really undefined. And TypeScript's yelling at us because it knows we gonna crash or shit gonna break. But then if we do like sup equals hello, yay, now TypeScript knows after this sup is, again, string. It's definitely defined and it will not complain. TypeScript knows.
TypeScript does know. TypeScript yells a lot.
Yeah. Alternately, you could do sup is string or undefined. Like that's allowed. And then the TypeScript error message says, well, spelled sup is possibly undefined. And then you can instead, if you wanted to, you do like if sup. Let's say like if math.random is greater than 0.5, sup is hello yay. Then later on, you could check like if sup is defined, then we console.log. And this is type narrowing to recap, because inside this if statement in the block in line 8, TypeScript knows that this stuff would only be reached if sup is defined, if it's actually a string and not undefined. So inside this if block, sup is actually type string. No crash.
It makes enough sense. I don't know if I'd be able to repeat that one back as much, but it makes enough sense to keep moving forward.
Okay.
And then using type aliases to save typing a long unions repetitively. That one was just, instead of let something be Boolean number string null, you would just say let it be. Oh, you would just name it type. I think it makes sense. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. If you were still sharing, I just hit the keyboard.
Type alias is like a copy and paste, or like a cookie cutter. Like when I say maybe string, what I actually mean is string or undefined. And by the way, to enter the chat, like we could do like if sup not equals undefined. Like TypeScript is smart enough to know that any area that can only be reached if sup is actually a string, inside that area sup is a string. Or like if type of sup is string, these would all work.
Yes. That's what Jacob said. There's so many type of checks. Yes, let's not confuse me. We haven't even gotten to objects yet.
That case will just stick with it.
Objects is in 2 weeks. Join us in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about objects. Lots to learn before then. Next week, I'll have someone on to talk about data. I'm very excited because that's a good place to start instead of Kafka. But old way of doing it was type of guards in JavaScript. Oh, there's so much to learn.
Yeah, a lot of architectural, archaeological history in JavaScript that like dubious usefulness nowadays, but like cool to know once you have the time.
Okay. I still have to catch up and start watching season 3 Critical Mass. So I have a pretty long to-do list, and I have to get my website done. The website is a little, I gotta actually really work on it. It's probably gonna be my weekend project. But
respect.
I feel like we're good. At least getting my brain a little fuzzy and learning enough that by the time we get to objects, I'll be like, oh yeah, I do understand that. So on these closing notes, we have what are the closing ones? Are they haikus too?
Oh my God, I forget. I want to say they're just puns, right?
I don't know.
I know this. They're just puns.
The puns. Okay, let's see if I still have it up on here. I do. Okay.
Yeah, why are const variables so serious?
Anyone have a guess before I bring it up on screen?
I've been meaning to watch Critical Role.
Did I say Critical Mass? I think I did.
Oh, okay.
And that's close, right? Critical mass, critical role. It's because they take themselves too literally. Ah,
Ah, got him.
it's fun. It's fun. Well, thank you, Josh, for joining today and for coming to hang out. And what? Our thing was funny, Jacob. Our thing was funny. And Jacob, I am gonna work on getting the OBS set up with the with the chat up. Yay. And everyone, please follow so you get notifications and go follow Josh. See if I can do a shout out. I try to do these. I'm
I'm
not
actually doing my own Twitch stream in half an hour, just working on some TypeScript stuff. People want a little more in-depth stuff. Although I am getting kind of tired, so it might be a chill stream. We'll see. Drink
I
that
did
latte up in
message
the
you.
meantime.
I saw that tweet and I was like, dude, you're doing 2 streams? I
Yeah.
get brain dead.
I'm already brain dead. It's perfect. I just had a
Okay.
conference for a day yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Great
Yeah.
conference, by the way. Staff plus New York City. Really, really good stuff. The lead dev conference line is good.
Yes. Yes.
Also, thank you for the shout out.
Yay. And please, yes, go follow Josh, follow me, come join us more often. I stream, oh God, starting next week, I stream 5 days a week.
Woo! Brain dead.
Follow Jacob. Yeah. I don't know if I'm playing D&D anymore because I don't know if we're switching to another thing yet. We were doing something. But we do play D&Ds on Friday nights sometimes and on Jacob's stream. So go follow Jacob. I'm a giant hippo. It's phenomenal. Her name is Hippity Hop. Or we might start streaming some other game that I don't remember what it's called. Yes, go follow. Go follow Jacob. The Expanse. We might be doing, and I'm trying to see if they'll do it on Sunday afternoons when I'm awake, because I wake up at 4 a.m. Mountain because my calls are early. Yay, working for a Finnish company. I actually
Yay.
I like it. Yes. Yay. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for shouting out everybody. Yo, like Ryan mods quite a few channels, but thank you for always modding mine because I'm always like, I don't know how to block someone. Please ignore these. I feel like a horrible streamer. I'm like, oh, I don't know. All right, y'all. I am not going to raid you because if Josh is going to be streaming in like half an hour, you should just like come back and watch Josh's. Do you have, well, do you use OBS?
I do, yeah.
Do you have a countdown on it?
No, I don't have anything.
Oh.
I've been meaning to set up. I actually just set up Stream Elements. I've been meaning to set up like overlays and stuff. I just haven't had the time.
Okay. Jacob, how did you get your countdown? How did you start yours? I'm more wondering if I need to like create one. You use overlays? Like Google Twitch overlays or OBS overlays? What overlays? Yes, there's always more to do as a streamer. It's so fun. Okay.
All right.
Well, and goodbye, everyone. Thank you all.